enjoying your weekend. Let's go over the weekly outlook. All right, what are the main plays I'm looking for going into next week? Remember, less is always more. And then the pre-market game plan for Monday. So starting with the overall market, of course, let's zoom out here on the weekly time frame. And you can see the last 6 weeks, it's just been straight upside. Uh, we were talking about this on Friday during our live trading session. It's honestly wild how the market was just so stagnant, right? We were just doing this for the longest. And then as soon as the first 2 week ceasefire went in, that first because we keep prolonging it, keep pushing it back, but when that first 2 week ceasefire went in, that caused that very large gap up in the market. And look at us now. So it's just crazy to think that 6 weeks ago, we were sitting maybe a little bit under 620, and look at us now. We're at 738. So long term, I'm really just waiting. I have an alert set here at the 697, 690 area. Really just waiting for a pullback here, just to load up more for the long term. But ideally, right, we want to see eventually, right? It has to come back. We won't know until we know, but I want to see these old highs turn into support. We still have to retest this. It may not be this week, it may not be next week, but eventually. So that's really what I'm looking for down the road. You can see here on the weekly, there are no more key levels. How do you know that a name is trending? When the previous week candle is just breaking above and closing above the previous week's high. So you can see we haven't had an inside bar week in roughly 6 weeks, probably, yeah, even before that. So just a strong trend to the upside here on the overall market. So that being said, until we really break structure, we're really just looking for pullback dips. When you look here on the daily, there's, like I said, there's no more key levels. At least on the higher time frame, we just keep moving higher. So on SPY, on Qs, you really just, if you really want to trade these names, I know most people primarily focus on SPY and Qs. You're really just looking for the PDH and the PDL. It's a trending name, so you can look for a pullback long off the PDL, or of course that break and retest over the previous day high, which has been pretty much the main setups here on the overall market itself. Working with what we got, I have a daily double top here at 724.85. So you can see, it did act as a little bit of resistance here, and then we ended up just gapping above it. So maybe, right, we can look and turn this into a support level, that dip buy. You can see that would still be, that stair step higher here. So that's the game plan really going into next week on the higher time frame. It's just waiting for pullbacks, if or when we get that. So a dip buy here, 724.85 would be solid. Dip buy here, 712.40 would be solid. But until then, you're just looking for a continuation. So break and retest over the previous day high or pull back long off of the previous day low. If it's an inside bar day, really not expecting too much. This market's very, very strong. So if you want, you can definitely look for a break and retest under the PDL. But based on what I've been seeing, one, you're counter trend trading. So you got to keep that in mind. If you do that, it has to be for a quick scalp. You can't really look to sit in that and expect continuation back to the downside. Because what I've been noticing is, right, these are liquidity pockets, like I've said, the PDH and the PDL. So you'll see something like, a peak and fell, sweep those orders, sweep that liquidity, and then get back above that previous day low where buyers load back up and push this thing higher. So that's just something to keep in mind. Again, we trade with a higher time frame, so when you look at Qs on the weekly, on the daily, this is really, I'm sorry, SPY, even Qs as well, this is really like a name you want to short. For me, I know that's a low probability shot, so you're better off just waiting for the break and retest over the previous day high. But until then, we got some time. We won't know, how fast or how long it'll take, but we just need some pullbacks here for the dip buys off our higher time frame key levels. That still needs to be retested. As for Qs, I mean, look how strong Qs is. Qs has definitely been stronger than SPY. I mean, look at that. That is just wild. It's like you think it'll slow down and then just another rocket. So once again, pretty fascinating to see. Like we were just so stagnant, just doing nothing. Pretty much the entire first quarter really didn't do too much. It's been a good second quarter thus far. But really the first quarter didn't do too much. We know we were sitting in a range really since November. But this is a great example when I say, hey, market comes in seasons. This was a season, and now, right now we're seeing trend, continuation, follow through on our plays. That's exactly what you want to see across the board. So even here on Qs, we'll want to see some old highs here turn into support. This 637, right? Previous all-time high, previous double top, really triple top here. You can see some solid reactions, but we want to turn this channel into what? Support. So remember, this trading, you want to take this serious, you want to do this full time, you want to do this for a long time. You got to have a long-term mindset. So that's why when in doubt, zoom out and build your analysis on the higher time frame, set your alerts and be patient and let it come back to you. Because this, I see it all the time. Especially with beginner traders, you're so focused on the intraday setups and the PDH and the PDL and just looking for a trade every single day. But you got to understand this is where your money's made. Just being patient. Maybe it may take a month, maybe it may take two, but if you execute that properly, you're gonna get paid for that. So we just want to see these old highs, right? Turn. We were just in a range. We got the breakout break, right? Very simple. Retest. That is a simple break and retest turn old highs into support, and it's a dip buy. So if you got your long term and you're looking to load up and you're looking to continue to invest your long term portfolio and whatnot, you don't want to start adding up here, right? you want to add down here on the dip. The trend is your friend and the dip is your best friend. So just keep that in mind. So going into the week, same thing here really on SPY as it is for Qs. Just we don't have any higher time frame key levels. You can see we're just on a crazy rip to the upside. So still need some pullbacks. I mean, we do have some gaps here that needs to be filled as well. So you're just looking for a break and retest over the previous day high and the previous day low. I've said this in the past. A great example, and this is yeah, this is Friday, right? This is a great example on why the traders who always try and time the highs, they're going to lose more than they will win. If the market's moving higher, nothing should be in your brain saying, okay, let's look for some short setups. No. Look at that. You got a beautiful break and retest over the previous day high here yesterday on Qs. And look at that beautiful, nice trend to the upside. The trend is your friend, right? Go with the overall market. You're putting the probabilities in your favor when you're trading with the overall market. Don't be that trader that's trying to time the highs. You're not going to win that battle. As you can see here, buyers are very strong. So what am I looking for on Monday? Like I just said here on SPY, right? Break and retest, previous day high, pull back long, previous day low. If you really want to take a trade on these names, until then, you're just looking for pullback longs. We have some gaps here that needs to be filled. There's no doubt. So just got to be patient. You can see we're very extended, very, very extended. Like no type of dips, no type of pullbacks we've seen so far on this market. So you can see I have most recent key levels this daily, this 668.80, just because you can see it was resistance and then we turned it into a daily double bottom. So solid 3 reactions there. So that would be a nice dip buy if we can get something like that. But until then, you're just messing with your previous day highs and previous day lows here on the market. Okay, so now for the tech. So Tesla, just go here to the weekly levels. So you can see here on Tesla, on the daily, we've definitely had a V-shaped recovery. Tesla's definitely broken this downtrend. You can see we were in a very nice downtrend here. We ended up breaking out a couple of weeks ago, tried to get back under, but we ended up, when you look at 637.35, you got the break on the weekly, and then you got the retest here. And look at us now. So nice little V-shaped recovery here on Tesla. If we can hold above these key levels, we have clear shots towards this year's highs. Tesla is actually one of the main bigger names that are actually lagging behind compared to the overall market, right? Amazon, Apple, AMD, what else? SPY, Qs. I mean, major tech names has already made all-time highs this year. Tesla has not. It made all-time highs going into the end of last year, and since then it's just really been pulling back this entire year. We pulled all the way back down to 335.50, and now we're starting to have this little V-shaped recovery here on Tesla, which looks really, really good. So now, still a little neutral on Tesla, just based on where it's sitting. Hasn't really been the cleanest, but more so bullish bias here, especially with the overall market. And we got back over 382.80, which means the bulls are definitely back in control here. So let's go here on our main key levels, break this down on the daily. So first things first, the pre-market game plan for me on Monday is going to be a long over 359. I'm sorry, 435.90. Break and retest above that. It's a key level here. You're also over the previous day high, which means price is likely to continue higher. Or it's going to be a pullback long for 417.45. Or if the market wants to stay heavy, because keep in mind, guys, we're sitting at all-time high, so we can pull back any day. Any day. Our job is to react, not predict. So I want to go into the day prepared for both ways. So definitely long over 435.90. Pull back long for 417.45. The reason for that being is because what did we just do yesterday? Well, we got the breakout. That's our displacement candle. We got the breakout of our key level. What do we need to do? Retest it. All you got to do is look left. This was a strong resistance level. We broke it. Can we retest it and turn this back into support? Or, right, if we do stay heavy, break and retest under 417.35, you're also under the previous day low. And that means that was just a peak and fell over a weekly level. That looks really, really good there if that sets up. So your two key line in the sense for Monday is going to be 435.90 and 417.45. What do we do once we get to those levels? Now on the weekly, let's go back to our weekly levels to make this a little bit easier here. On the weekly, you can see here, we ended up breaking out. So we still need to retest these. If you look at 408.20, look at that. We've been stuck in here for quite some time. This was our no trade zone. That was a solid consolidation area. So you can see we got the nice displacement breakout here this past week. You can see was support turned into resistance. We still need. That's very valid. So I would set an alert, which I am going to do. Set an alert at 408.20. Right, that is a break and retest on the weekly time frame, going long off of 408.20 back to the upside. See how clean that looks, market structure? So that's what I'm looking for here on Qs for the main objective play, really for this week, is hey, can we get a dip buy? Can we get this retest off of 408.20? If that sets up, I love it. We'll see. But that's the main plan going into this week. Just can we hold and stay above 408.20? You can see we just broke outside of this range. We just broke outside of this range. And if you want, you can even pretty much add this as well, this 417.45. We really were stuck in a channel between 417 and 382. You can see we just got that break. We just broke outside of that. So that looks really good here. If we can just hold above these two key levels and see if we can get some continuation higher. You can see there's nothing in its way up into 453.45 here. Even if you go here to our daily levels, the last really resistance level is 435.90, and then we got clear shots towards this year's high. So that's the game plan on Monday, and that is the weekly outlook here on Qs. You can see I have labeled here pullback long 408 retest needed on the weekly. So I like where it's sitting right now. Very simple. You can see we're just sitting right in between our two key levels. It's my favorite because now my trade comes to me long over 435.90, pull back long off of 417.45, and if it wants to stay heavy, we can look for a short under this level as well. NVIDIA. So something that I was explaining on Friday, yesterday, is it's a little tricky now. It's a little tricky just because now everything is at all-time highs. Right? We really don't have too many key levels to work with. So when you look at NVIDIA here, this one's a bit different because when you look at the last 3 weeks on NVIDIA, this is really all we've done. We've stayed in between 211 and 195. We finally got that range breakout on Friday, so we know what we're looking for. We see it all the time. I teach this all the time. You want to see this range, these old highs turn into support. Can we hold 211.35, start the weekly candle off with a wick off of this, and turn this into support and see some upside? That would be very nice. We got to keep in mind, history repeats itself. I always say that. We saw this here, going into last year. I'm sorry, going into the end of last year. We made all-time highs, and then we had a peak and fell, and we pulled all the way back to 170. You can see last week, we got up here, we got rejected. Very nice bounce here. We made all-time highs. So we're sitting in a very key spot here on the video because we can basically have, a weekly double top on this chart. It's happened here, and just get slapped in the face. Seller step in and pull back. We won't know until we know. Or we can finally break above this and turn this into support. So going into this week, my main weekly objective is, can we turn 211.35 into support? If you can get a solid entry up here, play end of week expiration, and let that play out, size accordingly, and see what happens, you're in right here. Right? As I always say, an A plus trade doesn't look like an A plus trade until it fully plays out. This is where I would want to belong here. Turning this channel into support, and let's see, okay, cool, can we start to trend higher? Look at SPY and look at Qs. That when we think that, hey, it's done or we're still extended, what do you know? We just continue making new all-time highs and just trending on the intraday. I think Friday is a great example of that. So that's what I'm looking for here. You can see, 3 weeks in a row, we were stuck in between this. So what I'm looking for is, can we turn 211.35 into support? That's really the main thing I'm looking for there on NVIDIA going into this week. Now, you can see here on the daily, what's the game plan going into Monday? Well, longs over previous day high, right? That's an intraday setup. I would treat that as a scalp. I would size accordingly, scale out because you don't have any key levels above your head. So my suggestion is, if you do take this and you need a profit target, I would let your first target be either pre-market high if it's there, a swing high if you get a big displacement and then the retest, or your strike price. That can be your profit target. You can see we actually broke out of 211.35. Resistance, resistance, resistance. Can we turn it into support? This is exactly what I'm talking about. So that's what I'm looking for here on the video. Honestly, 211.35 is really the main play here. That is the main play. Do we see a pullback long off of this? I would love to see that. Turn this into support, and then we can get some continuation higher. I also said shorts under here as well. Why is that? Well, we could definitely see something like that. We've already seen it. We'll also be under the previous day low. And if SPY and Qs wants to pull back, like I said, you can go into the day with a bias. Don't ever marry a bias. That's where traders go wrong. So if I'm seeing that the bears are in control and we're staying heavy, we've already made all-time highs and we want to pull back and the market's heavy as well, break and retest under 211.35 is a very valid shot. You're under the previous day low as well, which means price is likely to continue lower. I love it. So this is really the key line in the sand for the week and for Monday, right? Do we pull back and hold 211.35 on the higher time frame, or do we see a break and retest under it? If I'm looking to go long off of this, I would definitely play end of week expiration. I would play Friday's expiration. And let's see if we can get some nice intraday movement and then leave some runners and then turn it into a swing trade. We won't know until we know, but it's our job to be prepared. So 211.35 is going to be the main key level going into Monday and really for the week on NVIDIA. Amazon. Really nothing here. I mean, all these names. Look at this on the weekly. All these names. It's crazy. Amazon went from doing from doing this, right? It ended up having that crazy sell-off due to first quarter earnings. Went from doing absolutely nothing for almost 2 trading months, and then look at us now, just 6 weeks, just straight upside. So less is more. I'm never just gonna mark out key levels just to find a key level. There's really nothing much going on here on Amazon. It's just been consolidating, which is normal. That's kind of seemed to be the pattern here on Amazon. If you look at how I am, we'll consolidate, we'll get the breakout. We'll consolidate, we'll get the breakout, and then we'll get the consolidation. And that's normal, right? Consolidation, say it with me, next leg higher. So what am I looking for here on this name? Very simple, range break to either side. Break and retest under 270.40, break and retest over 278.56 all-time highs. Sitting in between that, you can clearly see we're in a range and a channel. There's nothing for me there. So if that sets up, I like it. Kind of see a little bit of a bear flag setting up here. See if I can get this. A little bit of a bear flag setting up here. Sellers already stepped in at all-time highs. You can see 3 days in a row. These are wicks on the daily, so there are definitely some sellers sitting up here. So if you can get that trend line break under 270.40, I like this pullback to 264.15 here on Amazon. So that's what I'm looking for. You can see each day, right? We have been moving lower, so we won't know until we know. Either we got like this built up liquidity setting up here for a next leg higher, or sellers are starting to finally step up here, and we can get a break and retest under 270.40. So that's the game plan for Monday, right? What do? Short under 270.40, longs over previous day high. Well, I'm sorry, over all-time highs, which is a range break as well to the upside. As for the weekly, like, what's the main objective? Really nothing. Like, I'm honestly not really too focused on Amazon. Like, there's really nothing there for me, and I'm not going to force something to be there. It's already really completed its main thing. You can see this 246.75 was such a strong resistance level here on the weekly time frame from this year. Some strong reactions here. We ended up getting a nice break, and then the following week we retested that, turning this resistance into support, and that's all she wrote. So when it comes to the weekly time frame, there really is, when you look at it, there are no more key levels, right? None. So really just waiting for some pullbacks here in the market. The only thing that I do like that Amazon is doing right now is just consolidating, because when it's consolidating for a while, then it's going to create some key levels like it is up here. So that's really just a game plan on Monday. You're just taking it day by day on a name like Amazon, just sitting at all-time highs, creating key levels. So short under 270, longs over 278.56, which is all-time highs. Microsoft, pretty nasty name, but very simple here. Microsoft's just not doing anything. It's just consolidating. It's just consolidating. You can see here, nasty. Does it look like a name that's trending higher or lower? No. So less is more. Like I said, these are honestly one of my favorite setups. Is just when we consolidate like this, because then you just wait for a break to either side. Either you get it or you don't. So where Amazon's sitting, you can see, I'm sorry, Microsoft sitting in between 427 and 404. You're just waiting for a range break to either side. That's all you're waiting for. This is your no trade zone, low probability environment, so you're not going to take any trades in here. Remember, protect your capital. You can't trade without capital. So when you go here on the weekly, you can see here, even on the weekly time frame, the last, 3-4 weeks, doing nothing. Nothing. We've had an inside bar week. There's nothing going on here. So don't really like Microsoft. It's a low probability environment. You're just waiting for a range break to either side. So that's all I'm doing here on this name. If you go here on the 1 hour, you can see how clear that is. It's just sitting in a channel. Break and retest over 427. Break and retest under 404.80 from the Palantir. Kind of the same thing here. Really nothing going on Palantir. When you look at this on the weekly, on the weekly, not doing much. Doesn't look too good. I've been saying this for weeks now. I'm waiting for this. If or when it sets up. That. If we can get that, man, that looks good. Long over 148.05, break and retest above that, nothing in its way. We could definitely see 161, and if we get over 161.75, clear shots towards this year high. But when you look at Palantir, this is really another name that hasn't done anything all year. All right, look at the previous year. See the difference? Very big difference. This year, we started off heavy, kind of like everything else, but since then, all it's been doing is just sitting in between 161 and 125. Really not much going on. So you can see here, I only have weekly levels. Less is more. So I'm just waiting for, this range break over 148.05 if that sets up. I would keep an eye out for this. 125.40. If you want to look for a pullback long, your highest probability long is going to be down here. You can see this year, this 125.40 has been defended very, very well by buyers. Very well. So if you want to go long on Palantir, it would definitely be down here. There's no doubt about that. But for me, the main play I'm looking for is longs over 148.05. If we do stay heavy, I would definitely take a short under 136.15, targeting 125.40. Apple, really nothing here on Apple. The only higher time frame play here on Apple will literally just be a pullback long here to 280. That would be the play on the weekly, 280.40, as you can see. Resistance, resistance. Even last week, body candle closed right under resistance. This week, we got the breakout. You want to see this turn into support. That's the only higher time frame setup that I really see here on Apple. 280.40, pullback long off of that, turning into support. When you go here on the daily for Monday, you can look for a pullback long off of 287.40. We still need to retest that. You can see this was clearly a resistance level on the daily, right? Clearly a resistance level. So you want to see that turn into support or a break and retest over all-time highs. Other than that, only two plays here. Pullback long, 287.40, or pullback long to 80.40. Other than that, really hands off here on Apple. Really haven't touched this name that much this year. When you look at this on the weekly, Apple's just I said this yesterday. Apple got to all-time highs in like the most ugliest way. Look at last year. Look at this year. Apple really hasn't done anything. We just ranged. That's all we did. And then this week, we literally just got that range breakout. So I just want to see us turn this channel into support. So higher time frame setup is really going to be this 280.40. Set an alert there, look for a pullback long entry, and let it play out. And then lastly, AMD. There's nothing here. There's literally nothing here on AMD. It did have earnings this week, so it did have that very large play to the upside, but there's nothing here, which is just wild. I haven't touched AMD in a while. This is not really a name I care to take a trade off of on the previous day high, just because the spreads are sometimes a hit and or miss. I have a hard rule where my spreads have to be 15 cents or lower. Anything over that, I'm kind of hands off. So you're just being patient, but even here on AMD, this is another great example on why you don't want to be the trader trying to short the highs. You may look and say, oh, we're so extended, and then you ended up getting a beautiful break and retest here yesterday over the previous day high. Look at that. Beautiful break, displacement. You didn't even get a candle dip under this, and then straight continuation to the upside. So beautiful shot there on AMD. For me, personally, hands off. This thing's right now, it's not even on Earth. This thing is on the moon, and we're just waiting for it to come back to Earth. So when that will be, don't know. Something I would like AMD to do is what Amazon is doing. See how Amazon, we're up here, but we're consolidating. We move up a little bit, we move down a little bit. That allows us to create key levels. That's what I would want AMD to do. AMD is just every day. It's just ripping to the upside. I thought, we'll have a little bit of a consolidation period here. It tried. It definitely tried. It didn't really form any key levels on the daily. And like I said, I'm not going to force any key levels. Very solid reactions here. So I'm like, okay, yeah, this is pretty decent. And then we just end up gapping up. Right? We got this crazy gap. AMD actually has a lot of gaps here. So I'm pretty much hands off on this name. I would just keep an eye out on the previous day high and the previous day lows. Hope this helps, guys. I will see you on the next one.